And welcome to another edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. With you as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, NFL.com. Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star. My name is Soren, Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. As we are off and running talking about another Chiefs victory. They get to 28 points. Fifth straight game they've done that. 28-7, the final. The Chiefs, more of the team we saw in the first half. They kind of played around in the mud there for a little bit with the Commanders, or they the team we saw in the second half that blew their doors off. What changed in the second half? How big of an impact is Rashee Rice making on this team? Travis Kelce, is he exceeding all of our expectations? How would you evaluate the Mahomes performance in this game? A lot of pressure, though, maybe more than we thought, on Patrick Mahomes from the Commanders. We'll talk about that. How does the offense get Xavier Worthy, Tyquan Thornton more involved? We're talking about it right here, right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Well, if you didn't know it, we use StreamYard to bring you this podcast because I'm looking at it, and this is not how it's supposed to be. So what do you guys want to do? You want to shut it down and we'll start it over and try to get this off there? I have no idea why StreamYard has decided to just throw a label over the video.
I don't.
Sam.
Well, we don't mind that part, but can the viewers see it? Can the viewers tell us?
I'm looking at the Renee, our buddy Renee from Italian Delight. I know he'll give me an honest answer. Can you see the StreamYard deal? Because I see it on the I see it on, like, I've got the YouTube stream looking up here, and it's on there. So, like, that's, yeah, everyone says they can see it. So, all right, what do you want to do? Shut it down? Like, I don't know.
Let's kill the duck.
There, okay,
there it is.
Hey, it's gone.
It must have hurt us.
The more you bitch about it, the more you get.
I guess. I don't even know where to begin. So let's just begin. I don't know. Hey, if you check out the podcast, there's a decent chance that you won't hear this part because I can affect that kind of change. Even I have those kind of editing skills. Let's start about it. The Chiefs get another double-digit win, Jeff. Not real impressive. Kind of a, I don't know, playing in the mud with a 7-7 first half and then a 21-0 second half. Who are they? Are they the first half team, the second half team? How would you describe it?
I think that, I was surprised at how well Washington played in the first half. I know Sam and I had this discussion. I thought they had a great game plan. I thought Mariota played well. And maybe there was some sense of the Chiefs got caught off guard by things they were doing. I think the game ended up the way we all thought it would end up, with the Chiefs winning handily. But it's hard to know how good this team is. They're a good team, but are they a great team yet? It's hard to tell because this game, Jay Daniels isn't playing. The game before is the whole Raiders team is a disaster. You've got the Lions with those secondary. You got the Ravens all beat up. I'm excited to see what happens in the next three games. I think we'll have a very clear perception of what this team is once they play Buffalo, once they play Denver, once they play Indy, all these teams at full strength, teams I think are really good teams. I think they're closer to the team in the second half, to answer your question, but I think that there are still questions for them to answer overall.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Sam, where do you sit?
I think they're closer to the team in the second half based on the fact that that's closer to what we've seen over the past 3 weeks. But I mean, more importantly, they have to be the team in the second half if they want to go into Buffalo and win, if they want to go into Denver and win. The team we saw in the first half does not win their next 2 games.
No.
The team we saw in the second half wins the next 2 games. And so, like, it was a distinct difference in how they were playing. I mean, Jeff mentioned Washington's game plan. It had the Chiefs all out of sorts. And the most relevant part of it moving forward is they were attacking the Chiefs linebackers in coverage. It was all running backs and all tight ends. And we saw the linebackers just completely fooled. And Nick Bolton told the Stars Pete Sweeney after the game that it was on him, that the communication issues were on him after the game. Buffalo will throw to their tight ends, they'll throw to their running backs, and they'll run the ball a lot. Like, that's the part that can't repeat itself a week from now.
Are we as concerned about the first half if the Chiefs don't turn it over twice? I mean,
Yes.
like, does it?
Yes.
You are just as concerned if they don't turn it over.
Because I think that for that reason, the concern for me wasn't about the offense, although they didn't protect Patrick Mahomes well. The concern for me was about the defense. I mean, you look at the defense, they allowed 6.11 yards per play. Washington's drives reached the 18, 35, 28 and end zone in the first half. Like, and by the way, that 6.1 yards of play did not come because they had some 70-yard play.
Yeah.
They didn't have a play of 25 yards in the first half and still averaged more than 6 yards per play. Like, they were consistently getting what they wanted offensively. It was just a fluke interception and 2 4th and 1s that get stopped. Like, that was, to me, a bigger concern in the first half than the offense was.
I do subscribe to your theory that if they play like they did in the first half against the Bills and the Colts and the Broncos, then they play 60 minutes of football like that, they're not going to win. But I also think that, like, what do you expect from the opposition? Are the Chiefs, do they only get a passing grade if they play 60 perfect minutes? And I know neither one of you are suggesting that. But my point is, the other team's on scholarship as well. The Commanders were a playoff team. Dan Quinn's taken a team to the Super Bowl. Is it a disgrace if they had 30 minutes of decent football and then got their ass kicked for 30 minutes? Like, I think maybe there are the injuries. I grant you that. They had some players that were down and they
one big one, right?
Yeah. Sure. But what you just outlined as to why they're going to lose had nothing to do with Marcus Mariota. It had to do with their defense, right? Like, Marcus Mariota wasn't out there,
Well, he tore him up in the first half.
He listen. I go back to what we said. Okay, I was talking about what had to do with the Commanders' defense slowing down the Chiefs' offense.
I see. Yeah.
But I'll go back over to the other side of the ball. I'm sorry, I made that confusing. But what I would say is, again, I think it's a good team. It's a well-coached team, right? That they had a game plan, and I think the fact that in the course of the game, the Chiefs were able to figure out what was doing and fix it. At the end of the day, the final score is what matters, and they dominated the second half. So, yes, it gave them some trouble in the first half, but how many times do we have to watch that with Steve Spagnuolo? The Lions led, 10-6, and with a minute to go in the first half, it was 10-6 Lions. The end of the game, Chiefs are walking away. They're not worried about anything. It's 30-17, right? Like, Steve Spagnuolo is a counterpuncher. I mean, I think part of what he does is he goes out there and says, okay, I've got a lot of different things I can throw at you, but what are you coming at me with? Then when he sees what it is, he adjusts and he goes back at him. And sometimes he doesn't adjust. That was the Charger game. I mean, they came out throwing. He kept waiting for him to run. They never did. And they got him. And listen, there are days that will happen. I do agree that they've done all they can against a bad Raiders team, a banged up Commanders team. We really find out who they are against the Bills. Because if they would lose to the Bills and lose by 10 points, we're going to couple that with the loss to the Chargers. We're going to couple that with the loss to the Eagles and say, this is a team that knows how to kick bad teams' ass and struggles against good teams. And maybe that'll change afterwards, but that will be a fair assessment to this point. But I really bristle at the idea of giving up just 7 points in the first half. Was like, oh. And by the way, the 7 they gave up, you are right with the distances they went, Sam, but the 7 they gave up was on a Hail Mary to the sideline, one of the most bizarre toe touches.
Oh, but he was wide ass open.
Yeah.
Do you think the defense played well in the first half?
I think the defense figured out what was being done to them.
Well, I agree with that, but do you think they played well in the first half?
I don't think that's a fair question, because I think you play a 60-minute game. And
right. If you want to assess the whole game based on what they did in the second half, I totally agree with you that Steve Spagnuolo is one of the game's best adjustment coordinators. Look, the Chiefs have allowed the 5th fewest points in the second half this year. Last year it was like 8th fewest. The year before it was the fewest in the NFL. I totally agree with your premise that Steve Spagnuolo is as good as it gets making halftime adjustments. There were a lot of adjustments to make at halftime in that game. More adjustment than there should have been to make. I don't think we could. Yeah. If I'm grading the defensive first half, I'm giving them a D for that first half and an A+ for the second half.
And I don't have any problem with that. But my question to you is, like, so is it supposed to be the 85 Bears every week, or we're panicked if they don't come out and just overwhelm the opposition in the first quarter on every drive? Then that's it. No. Because
I think the expectation we all had was it was going to be a blowout. And I don't think anybody was saying Washington, but I think anybody's saying Washington was going to come out and make it a game. I think we all felt like it wasn't going to be what the Raiders game was, but I think we all felt like this team should be handled pretty easily. The point I think Sam was making, the point I'm making, is that I think you're looking at it like, well, the Chiefs can hit this button and it's just going to take off for him. It wasn't just all the defense, the offense. When you're playing teams that have better offense and can actually take advantage of some of those situations Washington was in, it makes it harder on Spagnuolo and that defense to make those kind of plays. And so I think that's one thing he has going for him, is that he knows these offenses playing teams that are beat up defensively and is going to score points. And I don't have to worry so much about having a perfect call all the time.
In no way am I saying that they can play like that for 30 minutes against the Buffalo Bills and they'll be 7-7. If they play like that for 30 minutes against the Buffalo Bills, the Bills will convert more. There will be touchdowns. They will be trailing by a bigger number. They cannot hand the football away. Right. But they did take it away twice. Like that's my point is, was it his best half? No. Was it his worst half? Probably second worst half, maybe after the first half against the Chargers, I would say. But while doing that, they took it away a couple of times, or one time, right? They took it away 3 total. 2 in the first half.
A dropped pass off the face, man. Yeah. I agree with. I think we're more on the same page than it seems. But what I'm saying here is the reason. After the Jacksonville game, when there was a lot of panic about this Chiefs team after the Jacksonville game, I said the Chiefs are going to be fine. And it was because of these same metrics that I'm grading the first half defensive performance by saying that was not a great defensive performance in that first half for the same reason. It was consistently moving the ball, absent explosive plays. That's what the Chiefs did in Jacksonville, and it's why I said this offense is much better, in a much better spot than people think it is. Now, if the second half happened, it happened, and the Chiefs allowed 3.3 yards per play in the second half. They were terrific defensively in the second half. They've stopped the run back-to-back weeks. I don't think any of us saw that. Like, there was a lot of good things to come from this defense. I'm just saying that first half was not a great half of football, even if the scoreboard said 7 points.
I'm not calling it a great half of football. I agree with you. I think we are much more on the same page. But I do think the turnovers of the offense, maybe the better way to put it is they magnify the problems of the defense more. If Travis Kelce doesn't play volleyball setter on a pass and knock it straight up into the air and catch the ball, it's different. I mean, I do think if Patrick Mahomes doesn't have what I think may be his worst throw of the year, because I think the other ones you can say, well, he didn't expect the linebacker to drop. Lattimore was on him the whole time. He never had separation. He never got clear.
And looking at him.
Yeah. Yes, and looking at him. And so if those two things don't happen, and usually I will say, I mean, I know it's the second time Kelce's had one of those, but usually that doesn't happen. I'd be surprised, frankly, if it happens again this year. And so that's kind of fluky. The Mahomes one is maybe a little bit more concerning because he does seem to have one of those every game right now. The Raiders defensive lineman dropped it last week. I think he had one against the Chargers that I think got dropped. I mean, he's had kind of a what are you doing play in every game. The Jaguar one cost him the most.
Can I?
The Eagle one.
Can I tell you I don't have an issue with that? because I think one of the reasons Patrick Mahomes has been much better this year is because he's been more aggressive. And so the other plays you mentioned, I like this falls into an aggressive throw. The one against the Raiders, I don't think he sees the guy. Jacksonville, he definitely doesn't see the guy. This one, I think it's an aggressive throw, and it's really hypocritical for me to say, hey, be aggressive, but not that particular type of aggressive.
Yeah, I agree.
That's why I pointed out that Marshawn Lattimore was looking at him, and I'd like maybe him to throw, more of a back shoulder play where the guy's not looking at. To me, it doesn't qualify as a back shoulder throw if the cornerback's looking. That's the whole point of the back shoulder throw. Is to catch the cornerback off guard.
Are you talking about Peyton Manning kind of lit it up like you that's 101. You can't make that throw. I mean, that was one of the things that Peyton Manning fired out during the game on the broadcast. We played it today on the show as he's like, Eli, what's he doing? Like he's looking at him. You can't make that throw. And I would wonder what the route was really supposed to look like, because that's not really the kind of route you go back shoulder on. Did he not? Was he supposed to square it out more? I don't know. It was a mess. It sucked.
There's one other aspect.
Wrong guy.
Well, and there's one other aspect of it, which is Jalen Moore had gotten his ass kicked on that drive. And I think and particularly the play right before it. And I've talked all year about the fact that it's not just when he gets pressured, it's when he believes he's going to be pressured that matters. And that drive had told him your left tackle's in trouble. And I think he thought, I got to get rid of this ball quickly this time.
Jalen Moore had the lowest pass block. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Mike Caliendo did by far have the lowest pass grade. Jalen Moore was next. It wasn't awful. It was a 66, according to it. But they did expose Mike Caliendo in this game a number of times. That's one of the things to be concerned about if they get better defensive play. Jeff, what do you think flipped the switch in the second half?
I think one, it just helped they were playing a team that wasn't capable of keeping up with them offensively. I think that's a big factor, that they were able to start putting drives together and exploit the Commanders' defense, which you began to see their issues. They did figure out ways to take what Mariota was doing offensively. That helped. But I also think, to go back just quickly, I want to keep moving the conversation forward, but I think this team, because of what's happened in the last 2 weeks, we forget sometimes they're playing closer to the margins than we realize. And most of their games have come down to a handful of plays. What?
This year? They're playing.
I think this year, I think the games like the Jacksonville game, like the Detroit game, there's a handful of plays that end up deciding this game. I think what's happened the last 2 weeks with Washington and the Raiders is probably not typical of how this team is going to be playing throughout the course of the season. There'll be more close games, more moments where Kelce batting the ball up in the air is going to be a more pivotal play than what it became in this contest.
So that's interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think you're right. Just because of the strength of the opponent, I think they're going to be in closer games. They're not going to beat everybody 30. They're not going to beat the Bills 31-0. But I feel like, all the hand wringing, or at least all the people that kept saying, well, they're playing all these close games, it's eventually going to catch up to them. It's eventually going to catch up to them. For me, I see a team that, like, okay, they're kind of playing similar to last year, but I think they're actually better this year. And they've got stung on some of them. They're not as fortunate. They haven't got the upright and the block kick and the botch snap. And so they lost to Jacksonville because they didn't get something fluky. But the other ones, like those games that were close, they're now not close because they're stepping on the accelerator. Like Andy Reid's going for it on fourth down at the highest rate we've ever seen him do. Like they're not allowing them. I think Andy Reid got the message on, you're part of the problem, Andy, making these games close. Let's put the hammer down and let's run away from these teams when we can.
But that's what I'm saying. I think with the teams like the Raiders or the Commanders, you can do that. The Lions game really came down to Amon-Ra St. Brown dropping a fourth down pass, a touchdown, getting turned over on a penalty. The Jacksonville game came down to a pick six. Sam's talked about how that flipped the EPA tremendously in that contest. That's what I'm not saying every game is going to be close. And conversely, Kelce dropping a pass in the red zone in the Eagles game leads to a huge change. Though it's not always going to be a 3 or 1 point margin. What I'm saying, those plays do end up affecting the game in ways that these games we're watching right now, they're not going to be factors. If you judge every game, it's like looking at Buffalo. They won 40-9. Well, they're playing the Panthers without Bryce Young. The defense has a bad day. You can cherry pick that and say, look at Buffalo, look where they're at right now. But we're not going to do that, right? Because we see the context. So what I'm saying here is these last two games aren't a great barometer of what this team actually is.
Jeff's larger point is absolutely right. Like, I think one of the biggest mistakes people do is they judge teams based on one game. There's some few things that happened in this game, and particularly this. You asked Soren about the second half adjustments, and I mentioned to you that Steve Spagnuolo is great at always adjusting. But you know what side of the football has not been good at adjustments over the past couple of years has been the offense. And so to me, that was my biggest takeaway, is that the offense is starting to make second half adjustments in a way that they have not been the past couple of years. So this year, they're averaging 14.3 points per game in the second half. Over the last 3 games, they're at 16 points per game in the second half, which would lead the NFL. Last year, they were 18th in the league. The year before, they were 24th in the league. In 2023, a year they won the Super Bowl, they were averaging 8 points per game in the second half. Remember last year, we couldn't stop talking about how bad they were in third quarters? They were like 3.5 points a game in third quarters, one of the worst teams in the NFL. This year, they're scoring in the third and fourth quarters. And so it stands out to me that the offense seems to have more options about it's not going well in the first half, now what? And I think this offense shrugged its shoulders at that question a lot of times at halftime. And this time they're like, you've got Rashee Rice, you've got Travis Kelce, you've got Xavier Worthy, your quarterback is better protected. There's more answers for those questions now.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. One of the answers is Rashee Rice. We'll talk about how big his impact is after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Let's talk about Rashee Rice. How big has that impact been, Jeff, for the Chiefs? Getting him back, now seeing him in another game, like how big would you say?
I think it's been solid. I don't think it's been revolutionary. Maybe that's not the greatest word, but I think he's been solid. He's been what I thought he would be. I got asked this question on the morning show on 810 this morning, and I said, I don't want them to fall into the trap of thinking we got to give him 9-10 catches a game. Because I do, and we're going to get into the question of Tyquan Thornton and Xavier Worthy. I do think this offense is most potent when everybody's in the mix, and you can fall victim to the idea of, well, him getting a 10-yard catch, that's a huge thing for him. Now, I understand he needs to get back into the flow and get his juices going and find a groove and all the other cliches you want to say, and that's important. But I don't think like he needs to be at 8 catches for a 120-yard guy game for this offense to hum. And I think that we saw that when he wasn't out there, and we saw a lot of creative things. And so I do think there are a lot of things that you can take away from what he's been doing. But I think a lot of what they're trying to do is get him going and make him feel good. And that's a positive.
I haven't really seen them force the ball to him. Like his 9, so he got targeted 9 times last night. All 9 were catches, and all 9 were also graded as being wide open, at least 3 yards of separation by Next Gen Stats. Like this was their best offense. And to me, that's what's most telling about the couple of weeks that Rashee Rice had. And it fits into the 3 weeks we saw him open the year with last year. He mentioned that right before he goes out for the second half, Travis Kelce pulls him aside and say, you got to get going. And what he means is that's the way we're going to get going, is if you get going. And what Kelce's recognizing is what we talked about early last year is they've transitioned from the offense running through Travis Kelce to the offense running through Rashee Rice. And they're a year behind schedule because of the injury, because of the suspension. But I've long been wondering what this offense is going to look like post Travis Kelce era, because even despite his age, he's led the team in receiving 4 straight years in 6 of the last 7. I think we're seeing these last 2 weeks, and particularly last night, what this offense is going to look like when Travis Kelce's gone, because there were some connection and spontaneity plays that to me were reminiscent of the way that Mahomes and Kelce have connections.
Yes, he knows where to find the holes. He knows how to get open. I agree. And I think the one thing that's clear is, I think we knew he'd be the number 1 guy, but it's not even close. I mean, it is him. And there are still things I will still say. I mean, we're still seeing him run the kind of routes he's always ran. We're not, there are still, some routes that I'd like to see added to the equation and feel like he can really, just go out and run a 15-yard out and do some things and be on time and on schedule. But some of that is I don't see anybody else doing it on this team either. I mean, I think it's just part of what, I think kind of the Hollywood Brown route probably, as somebody said, well, I think the interception's on Hollywood Brown. Yes and no. I mean, their routes are kind of like you see it the way Pat sees it, and he's going to get you the ball, right? There is an element of freedom. Like I like to call them option routes, but theirs are almost kind of like, here's the vibe we're looking for.
It is option.
Yeah, it is options, but it's also almost beyond just like a lot of times an option route is he shades you in, you're taking it out at 10. If he shades you on the outside, I want you going up the seam. And like it's still a hard and fast rule of what you're going to do. It's just 1 or 2 or 3 different things. Theirs are almost like options like, kind of take it where you want. I mean, I thought it was of note. Devontae Adams said last night, he was on the Manning cast as well, and he said, I don't even know if they have plays. It's like playground.
People have said that before.
Yeah, and which I think is unfair when you act like that's the whole offense. And I think we do see that when Mahomes scrambles, they're really well coached on what to do, and they're clearly on the same page for how they're going to try to get open, and he's going to try to get him the ball. But I there is an element of like, get into this area, and Pat will figure out how you're going to get there. And it is kind of loosey. I mean,
well, and that's what I'm saying. I actually, Steve Smith, who I work with, has said that before. Like, they don't run routes. They just kind of go out there and adjust and adapt on the fly, which is kudos to them for doing that. The thing about Rice, the point I'm making is not that I don't make it sound like they're forcing the ball to him in this game, but that getting the mindset of like you can just eat off him every week. They're like, if Patrick Surtain, when he's healthy, is covering him, or there's a more accomplished person, they're going to start seeing more man coverage. Some of these zones are going to go away. That's happening. And so it's like, is he the kind of receiver? And I think it's a legitimate question, who can really dominate the entire field. Like, that's what Justin Jefferson does, or Jamar Chase does, or Lamb, And so I'm with you. I see him do certain things, but I'm like, this is the perfect team for him to be on. But I'm like, okay, for him to be that next level guy, you got to be able to like do what a Tyreek Hill used to do, which like he'd hurt you all over the field.
And I want to ask you about that, Jeff, because I'm with you. And he had 9 catches and 9 targets. That's great, right? But 93 yards, right? Yeah. Like, so he's averaging 10 yards a catch, which is fine. But like that's what it kind of always is. We're still kind of waiting for that 7 for 178, or even 4 for 124, where it's, a couple of really big plays. And it's fine if he never does that. But does this offense miss something if someone, whether it's him or somebody else, isn't doing it, right? Does he need to be the guy to do it, Jeff?
And that's
he's simply more Chris Carter than Randy Moss.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the kind of point I'm making, which is, and we can get into it now with Tyquan Thornton, Xavier Worthy. Sure. I think they bring a dimension to the offense that can begin to disappear if you're so concerned with, hey, let's get this 5-yard, hitch to him and let him try to run for 8 or 12 yards. Let's hit him with, the smoke screen, let him go. It's like, I think that part of your offense when you're going down the field is a lot scarier than what Rashee Rice can do. And they both have value. But you're right. Like, I watched the Cowboys offense, for example, and George Pickens, who's their second best receiver, is out there when CeeDee Lamb is hurt and he's making splash plays all over the place. And maybe that's not who Rashee Rice is, but if you're going to give him the ball 10 times, he needs to be closer to that kind of guy.
So what do you see, Sam?
Yeah, I see it differently. I mean, I don't think I agree with you guys that Rashee Rice is not that type of guy, but I think he should stay the guy he is, because the way that stuff is going to get open, the Tyquan Thornton stuff, the Xavier Worthy stuff is going to be open, is because of the effectiveness of what Rashee Rice is doing. They targeted him 9 times, and he catches all 9 passes. 5 of the last 6 went for a first down or a touchdown. Like, that's effective. These are high success rate plays, and at some point, defenses are going to have to respect it enough to where the other stuff's going to open up. Washington played the deep pass a lot. Like that was their defensive strategy last night, was to try and take away the deep stuff, which I know some people are probably wondering in that case, why is Tyquan Thornton not playing? I wasn't wondering that last night because of the way Washington was playing. You know, Tyquan Thornton has run the highest percentage of deep vertical routes in the NFL of any wide receiver this year. And if they're playing all cover 2 stuff and taking that away, there was an era for 2 or 3 years where the Chiefs kept MVS on the field anyway. And he just ran wind sprints up and down the field that were pointless. And so the Chiefs now have other options to where they didn't do that last night. They put Hollywood Brown on the field more. They threw it to Rashee Rice more. And these were high success, to the Rashee Rice plays, they were high success rate plays. And that goes back to what I said earlier, is the Chiefs have more options now based on the way teams are defending them, because their wide receivers are diverse. Now, if Buffalo does not play a bunch of cover 2, which typically they play this robber defense against the Chiefs, and then Tyquan Thornton's not on the field and they're allowing that part of the field, that to me would be more telling about his usage and playing time.
Yeah. Do they have to have, though, Sam, in your mind, does a Tyquan Thornton and a Xavier, where does somebody need to start hitting it over the top? Like, kind of like we're talking about right here. Okay, they were able to make these mistakes against Washington and get away with it. But to beat a Buffalo, is somebody going to have to get them over the top, to make the bigger by air distance, because Travis Kelce had a long break, caught and run. Are they going to have to start making some of those plays?
Yeah, if teams defend them that way, absolutely. And even if teams don't, like what the Chiefs did last year, averaging the most drop plays per drive in the NFL a year ago and still scoring at the rate they did, which they were only 16th in the league, that doesn't usually it's hard to move the football without explosive plays. Yeah. I mean, it's obvious, but the data, I think, is even more overwhelming than people would think, based on how one explosive play in a drive changes your chance of scoring. Of course, you get 20 yards, you're going to have a higher chance of scoring, but I'm saying it's overwhelming how much easier. So yes, you have to have that be part of your offense as well. My point is, like, if you've got a guy that's catching 9 out of 9 targets and 5 of the last 6 are going for first downs or touchdowns, those plays are going to be there more frequently than if you don't, if you're just ignoring it and trying to force the ball where it's not open.
Yeah. Travis Kelce exceeding your expectations here for what we thought he was going to be.
I think he's about what we thought he was going to be. I mean, I think he's had some moments. His past game, he obviously was his biggest game of the year, but I think his productivity comes down to, does he get those opportunities to have those explosive plays? Like, he had 99 yards in this game, but 31 came on one play and 38 came on another. That really was 38 was he was blocking and he leaked out and nobody was there. Washington forgot about him. And a 31-yarder was a really well-designed play where Mahomes was rolling left and Kelce's going across the field to the right, and they obviously are playing zone coverage there, and they lose track of him and he hits that. I mean, they're not going to get those plays every week. And so I think he's more of the guy who's going to be in the 4 or 5 catch, 50-yard range, which is fine. That's what he is right now. But it'd be different if he was catching a 10-yard crossing pattern and outrunning people for like 60 yards. He's not going to do that anymore at this point in his career. But to Sam's point, with the way the offense is functioning and the weapons they have at their disposal, it's easy for him now to get free, because he's not getting the same amount of attention that he was getting even last year. I mean, people are taking him are definitely taking him for granted in ways that we've never seen with Travis Kelce.
He's on pace for 79 catches and 1,007 yards.
Yeah, I mean, the answer for me is yes. It has surprised me, and
yes.
Jeff's right though. For a primary reason for his game last night is because defense forgot about him twice. When's the last time that we have ever said a defense forgot about Travis Kelce? Like, you don't see that, but there are a couple elements. First of all, I think his entire season has surprised me. Two of the Chiefs' worst plays of this offensive plays of the year are because Travis Kelce dropped passes. Like, two of their bottom 5 EPA plays are Travis Kelce drop pass. That part surprised me. But the production has surprised me as well. I mean, he's at 7 yards after the catch per reception. Last year, he's at 3.5. And of course, he got probably 39 yards after the catch on the 38-yard on the 38-yard play.
It spiked, yeah.
But the one thing I do want to mention about Travis Kelce is when I was going to say but I do this more than anyone. I spend a lot of time comparing 2025 Travis Kelce to like 2020 Travis Kelce and 2021 Travis Kelce. At some point, we need to just compare him to his peers, because you look at it and halfway through the season, he's 18 yards shy of leading all NFL tight ends in yards. And the guy's 36 years old. And you can say, hey, George Kittle's been hurt. Brock Bowers has been hurt. But wasn't that part of our concern with Travis Kelce being 36 years old? Like, if Travis Kelce was hurt, we'd be using it against him, right?
Yeah.
So Brock Bowers hasn't been on the field. George Kittle hasn't been on the field. Whatever the reason, he's 18 yards shy of leading tight ends in receiving, and we're halfway through the NFL season. The guy's 36 years old.
Yeah, I'm stunned. I mean, we talked about it. I think none of us thought 1,000 was still a possibility, that 800 would be pretty good. Like, I think there was probably some hope that, like, hey, maybe it can be 650 and be 8 or 9 touchdowns. Maybe they find a way to get more from him at the goal line. That's how he can really impact this team. And I think part of it is all of the weapons. Like, he's definitely in better shape. Like, it's never one thing.
Yeah.
He's definitely in better shape. And let's be honest, he still ain't going to win the beach pod contest of anybody in the NFL. Some of the guys that are jacked in the league, but he's in definitively better shape than he was last year. But I think also all those weapons, and we could talk about Tyquan Thornton and Xavier Worthy, and even though they're not putting up numbers, there is just one football, but they are threats, and they've shown the threat. Xavier Worthy has shown the threat last year and this year, so you have to respect them. And Travis Kelce is open. You're right. They forgot about Travis Kelce because they're worried about everybody else. Yeah. And so he's benefiting from the overall ability of that everybody else has. So, yeah, I think it's
and the line has allowed him more time. They didn't play great in this past game, but having that opportunity for him to get down the field and find those spaces, I assume last year was a big part. He didn't have time to do that.
We still want to evaluate Patrick Mahomes Day, talk about the Mike Pennel, addition, which should be official tomorrow, Isaiah Pacheco and the injuries. We'll get into all of that after you hear from our friends at Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait. Get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222. Or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, let's talk about Mahomes Day overall. We've talked about the throw a little bit. How would you evaluate Mahomes Day as a whole, Jeff? He had one of those rare occasions where he threw 2 interceptions and still had 100 passer rating.
Just the third time, yeah.
Which isn't easy to do. The other 2 he did in the 2018 season where he was putting up video game numbers. Jeff, what do you make of that day he had?
Well, I think it was like the entire team, right? I mean, he wasn't kind of muddled through it in the first half and didn't have his best effort. And then he got hot in the second half and took over. I mean, he had a couple hundred yards passing in the second half alone. And some incredible throws off balance. It was really like manipulating the defense with scrambles and getting the zones to open up holes in the zone. And so I thought if I'm grading him, I'm giving him a B plus for what he did. He got the job done in the end, which is all you really want. It's the only throw I really had a problem with, to be honest with you, was the throw to Hollywood Brown, where I thought that was a throw that was more it was cavalier and of the mindset of like, hey, we got all these guys and they can all do different things and I trust them all. And he can't fall into that mindset because some of these guys can't do everything that he would hope, and they can create some problems if he's trying to go to them in those kind of situations.
First half, 8 of 15 for 89 yards, the 2 interceptions. Second half, unstoppable. Sam, what did you think of the day as a whole?
Yeah, it was ironic because I think I even mentioned this on Friday that I had asked Mahomes the day earlier on Thursday about what he learned his last day as a backup. And he said, which was against the Titans and Marcus Mariota, beating them in the playoffs. And he said, you can't let those big plays bury you. And he had 2 interceptions with a negative 10-point expected points added value to him and came back and just killed it in the second half. So I thought there was some irony there, but there was a specific element of the second half. And I haven't talked a lot about this on this year, but last year, Patrick Mahomes was really bad on secondary reads, like one of the worst quarterbacks in the league when he did not throw to his first read. This year, he is far and away the best NFL quarterback on his second and third reads. And both touchdowns, the Rashee Rice touchdown is his third read. Travis Kelce is his third read on that play, on his touchdown. He's obviously not his first read on the dump-off play that Jeff mentioned. All their success came on non-first read plays, and he's killed it there. He has. I know a lot of people don't like it when I throw around the EPA stats, but his expected points added on secondary reads this year is over 40. The second place is 12. There's only 3 quarterbacks in the positive on that stat. He's over 40 this year. And last year he was at negative 41 when he looked at his non-first reads.
By the way, I would encourage you to not take out your frustrations at a text I sent you on our good listeners. Okay. Now,
I was referring to the listeners.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. Yeah, let's add you to it too, though.
We were.
I will say it was enjoyable because Jeff and I were sitting at the same table at halftime as we're firing it off. Let's see a response to this.
Yes, it was quite fun. The gallery at my place had like what like was the reaction to the to the
well, it's always good to educate.
You absolutely. We're all here to learn more and become smarter. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, I thought, I think it's great. I think you hit on something there, Sam, and I think maybe does it look like they really went to work on what was wrong with them and they've really fixed those problems? Like it started with the personnel side, like, look, our left tackle's a disaster and we're going to get one, we're going to upgrade, and then we're going to try to knock one out of the park. Personnel wise, they really went out and they looked at it and said, you know what, we were too thin at corner. It hasn't worked with Christian Fulton, but again, they didn't just sign Christian Fulton, then they drafted Noel Williams. Their coverage has been better, right? Like, and then for me, and we can say we don't need to get too far into the Andy Reid on fourth down, but you just mentioned Patrick Mahomes, his second read, like he looked at the numbers. They said, look, here's where you have a problem. This is what you have to do better. And he's doing that better. And then Andy Reid has been, I know he likes to say, well, we've always been one of the more aggressive. No, you haven't. Like far from it. And now he's going for it on fourth downs early at the goal line. Like they seem to have looked at all the things that I think an Eric Eager would be like, these are the things where you're holding yourself back. And I do think the offensive line was easy. I think part of like the close games, like They went to work on why are we in all these rock fights? Like, what is the deal? And I guarantee you, they're like, well, Pat, when he has to come off to this read, he's killing you with this. And, Andy, you've got an opportunity to win this game in the second to put this team, 2 scores behind in the second quarter, but you didn't do it. You gave them the ball back. And, it does look like they really went to work on, okay, what are our flaws and how do we fix them? And Patrick Mahomes, I think, Sam, what you just said is like president of the club.
Yeah, I mean, I think he took a pretty hard look at himself in the offseason. I know he did based on conversations I had with him. And I asked him about the second reads last night, and he said, that's a place where I wasn't very good last year. And he actually said, I wasn't very good in the first half either. And I was a lot better in the second half. When you go through the tape again, I mean, it's frequent. Last night was the longest that he's held onto the ball in the pocket this year, is almost 3 seconds, which there's a couple quarterbacks that average 3 seconds. I mean, Geno Smith averages way too much time. Russell Wilson averaged way too much time. But it's unusual for him. And he was constantly keeping his eyes downfield. But you mentioned all those adjustments. To me, so many of these adjustments fall into one category, which is your offensive line's better than it was a year ago. Yeah. He couldn't look at a second and third read all that frequently a year ago.
And Andy didn't want to go for it on fourth because he couldn't trust Wanya Morris. I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point. They shored up the one thing. It made all the other things easier. By the way, Renee, this version of Andy Reid is refreshing. It's much more entertaining. I will tell you that, but trust me, I know that everyone's going to line up and be like, why did he go for it on fourth down when he goes for it and doesn't get it, which is going to happen one of these times. The key is he's got to turn right around and go for it again the next time. Every time it's time. The key is to do it all the times it's called for, and in the long run, you'll be the better team for it.
There's another piece of that I think is important, and I think it was Greg Olson who brought this up. But like they're at the 2-yard line on the 4th and goal play. If you kick a field goal, if let's say you don't get it, let's say you go for 4th down, don't get it. Washington's at the 2. You kick a field goal and you kick off, Washington's at the 35.
Yeah.
You're giving them 33 yards closer to their field goal range, closer to their end zone. It's an even bigger reason to go for it this year than it was a year ago.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a great point. Isaiah Pacheco banged up week to week. He's being listed, Jeff, although he hopped up off the table and seemed to, look all fired up and everything. But should this be a concern, particularly headed up to Buffalo and the way the schedule gets tougher? They do have a bye week on the other side. Like, what do you make of the Pacheco being dinged up?
Well, this game especially, it's important because he is, he's their best option at running back. You hate saying that because he's not a great option at running back, but he's their best option at running back. And he matters in games like these. This is a game with Buffalo that's going to be, it's not, I'd be surprised if it's really wide open. I know that, with these two quarterbacks, they've had great duels, but I imagine both these teams are going to be very cognizant of not turning the ball over, trying to manage the clock really well, trying to give themselves the best opportunities, trying to establish dominance over each other in the trenches. And so you want to be able to have a really good run game to, help you in that aspect. And so if he's not out there and you're relying on Kareem Hunt, Rashard Smith is, again, he's a nice option, I guess. But
good 7th round pick.
Exactly. But you're not handing him the ball 12, 15 times a game and getting max effort out of that. And so if you're putting your whole backfield on Kareem Hunt, I think it's a lot to ask. So I do think it should be cause for concern in a game like this.
Where's your concern level, Sam?
I'd say measured based on the fact that I don't think he's all that productive as a back. And I just don't know that the drop off from him to whomever is that significant. The other the flip side of that is that I don't think you want to be giving the ball to Kareem Hunt 20 times a game, not because of how he'd perform in that game, but because we saw the effect of them doing that on Kareem Hunt late in the year last year. And Kareem Hunt has been so good for you on short yardage. I mentioned last week he's better than the tush push on conversion rate. And then this week, converts 3rd and 1, converts 4th and 1 on the run. You don't want to lose that. And so if he's out, I think you'd have to give someone, Elijah Mitchell's going to have to play. because it's either going to be that or you're going to elevate someone in the practice squad over Elijah Mitchell, in which case, what's Elijah Mitchell doing on your roster?
Yes.
And so I think Elijah Mitchell's going to have to dress if Isaiah Pacheco cannot play, and he's going to have to play. Like, you're going to have to play whoever you elevate, because you don't want to ruin Kareem Hunt in January, even for a really important November game.
Yes, I would agree. And, you got a bye week looming after the Buffalo game. So do you say, well, let's send him against Buffalo because then we really get him 3 weeks rest? Or do you say, well, let's go ahead and push it because he's going to get 2 weeks after that?
Andy Reid never does that.
I know.
I think, and I totally agree with the logic. I think all three of us probably look at that and say, why not give the guy an extra week? But it's not been Andy Reid's MO to do that. If he thinks you're healthy, you're there and you're ready to roll.
Mike Pennel, Jason Anderson from 810 had today that he's back in Kansas City. I've been told that, he's got to pass the physical tomorrow. Once he passes the physical, he'll be a member of the Kansas City Chiefs if he passes the physical. Presumably he will, because otherwise Cincinnati would have had to have done an injury settlement if he can't pass the physical. So I'm assuming he's going to pass the physical, but it is still out there. He's definitely
it's mean. Sorry to interrupt, Soren, because I want to hand this off to Jeff on his thoughts, but it's more meaningful than people think, because that was part of the rationale for not keeping him on the 53 was health stuff. So I've heard the same thing, and I think it's probably going to happen, but
he's got to pass the physical. It's still part of the equation. Yes. It is. What does Mike Pennel, if he passes the physical, Jeff, and is back on this team, what does he add to the mix?
Well, it's a curious question, right? Because he's been cut twice now in the last 2 months. And it's not like the Bengals don't need help defensively.
Yeah.
They need all the help they can get. And so, but he may be in a situation where he's like Juju Smith-Schuster. Maybe somewhere else he looks worse and he comes back here and they know how to use him better, maybe in a rotation. We know they need help in their defensive line because of the loss of Omar Norman Lott. So I'm curious. I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know. I'm not sold on him being the guy he was, because they let him go for a reason. Cincinnati let him go for a reason. So I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, I expect him to be a 15 to 20 snap guy that plays in obvious rundowns, right? Like, and those are harder.
He was in Cincinnati, though.
Yeah,
he was starting to not play at all. I mean, he has 28 snaps over the last 3 weeks, and Cincinnati has, you could argue, the worst run defense in the NFL this year. Like, they're third in EPA, third worst in EPA. I think they're like sixth worst in yards per carry. Their stuff percentage this year, which would be a defensive tackle's job, is 9.9%. Second worst in the league is 11.5. That's like, they don't get any negative plays with their run defense. It's you used the word curious. There's not a better word for it. It's curious that Cincinnati couldn't find a use for this guy with how bad their run defense is.
Yeah, I think for me, they are – I think it's clear that other teams bring him in and want him to do what they do. And Steve Spagnuolo looks at him and says, this is what he does. And so I will have him do that. Like, do you want him to twist? He's completely immobile. He can't do it. Like, you want him to stunt? You want him to be part of a rotation and do something in the pass rush? Not going to happen. He is a big man who is tougher to move out of the middle and will clog things up. And so if you want to create pass rush, you need to blitz, and you need to blitz around him. And, or you need him to be off the field. And I think Steve Spagnuolo gets it with him. I'm not saying – I think good coaches get it, overall more with all players than bad coaches who try to ask guys to do things they don't do. But it is clear every time he goes someplace else, they quickly fall out of love with him when he gets someplace else. Maybe he's a complete pain in the ass to coaches. I don't know. Maybe he's a locker room lawyer. I don't know. I just know that every time he leaves, it doesn't last long. And then he comes back, and they're happy with him. I would expect it. I'm with you, Sam. I think it's diminishing returns as he gets older. But I would expect him to be a useful piece to the defensive line rotation on a limited basis.
This is a question the Chiefs are not going to answer. But what's changed from 2 months ago?
That's exactly.
Because I'll tell you, the only thing that has changed.
Omar Norman Lott has been lost for the year. That's literally it.
Well, there's two things that have changed. It's that, and there's one more. He's been cut again.
Yeah.
By a terrible run defense team. And like I said, I tried to explain this to people that he was not cut out of camp because they had no faith in his ability to play that next day. It was that the best path for Mike Pennel was to play in December and January, the way he's done for this team a couple of times when they picked him up on the practice squad and then suddenly they're elevating him in December. Suddenly they're playing him in the playoffs. I just think that was the ideal path for him. And so I wonder like how much they're going to use him for that reason, not because they don't think he's a better option than Derek Nottie, but is their best option going to be preserving him? And by the way, I'm not clear yet on whether or not they're going to sign him to the active roster or to a practice squad deal either.
I would agree. I have not been told either one of those things. And I'm with you. Like it was stressed. Well, he's got to pass the physical. So is there a bulky knee? Is there a bulky shoulder? Is there something in there that might not get clearance? Maybe. I mean, this is, I mean, Cincinnati, it is of note that Cincinnati walked on him. But I do think that there is an element of like Steve Spagnuolo gets this guy. But
again, why would you let him go if he gets him?
Well, I think just for what Sam said. I mean, I think they don't think he's got 21 games in him. But now beggars can't be choosers. I mean, I think they hoped Omar Norman Lott.
I think that's
going to solve a lot of the issues.
That's exactly it, Soren.
You know, and it's like I'm dumb enough to believe every one of these, aging wideouts they bring in, Josh Gordon's and all that, are going to still have something into the tank. DeAndre Hopkins, I was done. You will note, I probably did overestimate. Yeah, now I think about it, DeAndre Hopkins. But I'm done. I was done with 1,000 per 8. Like when they get to this point, it's because there's no one else. Like what we will just have to live with what he can give us. And I think that's where they are with Mike Pennel right now. So we'll see. All right. They did get some pressure. The Commanders did. Let's close with this level of concern that there was a little bit of heat on Patrick Mahomes from a Commanders team that lost their best sack guy, Dorrance Armstrong, had Daron Payne banged up. Like, where's the level of concern that they were able to pressure against three of the 5 starters and 2 backups on the offensive line, Jeff?
I wouldn't say like crazy high, but it's a scale of 1 to 10. I'd probably say 6 or 7. I mean, this was not a game where I expected Patrick Mahomes to be feeling any kind of serious pressure. For them to get 3 sacks and be around him a lot, it was surprising. And Sam and I talked about it at halftime of that game. Jalen Moore was having his issues, and Caliendo was having his issues. And this is, at some point, Josh Simmons not being here is going to have a bigger impact on this team. And I think this was the first glimpse of that, that moving forward, whenever he comes back, if he comes back, is this going to be a problem this team can't get over? Because, like that throw to Hollywood Brown that Marshawn Lattimore picked off, there could be more of that coming, or more of those kind of scenarios coming if Mahomes begins to feel like I can't trust what's in front of me anymore.
Where's your concern level, Sam?
Yeah, the first half, it was pretty high, to be honest, because I think we saw the drop-off between Trey Smith and not having Trey Smith in the lineup. And it was just ironic to me that Nick Allegretti was on the bench on the other sideline. But there was one element I thought was pretty encouraging, which is Jalen Moore, like I said on that one drive, was really beat up. And then he responded. And what was most overwhelming about how bad left tackle was a year ago was they had guys who were bad that got worse in game. Kingsley Suamataia had to be brought out of the game. He panicked so bad. Wanya Morris had to be brought out of the game. He panicked so bad when it wasn't going his way. It wasn't going Jalen Moore's way for a couple of drives, and then he responded, and then he played well in the second half. And so that was, I thought, a really encouraging sign for what they have in the person as much as the player.
Can we point out pass blocking grades amongst the offensive linemen? Creed Humphrey, 83.4. Jawan Taylor, 82. Right? Plays very well when he doesn't get the penalties. Kingsley Suamataia, 79.5. All right. Throw some love to a guy who looked inept even at guard in preseasons, now stringing together a number of quality games in the pass blocking. And then Jalen Moore, 65.7, and Mike Caliendo, 34.3.
Caliendo was, I think, graded pretty well in the run game.
Yes, 77.
There were 2 plays that I think Mike Caliendo might have got a 0 on.
He was starter
that-
though, right? You
and
see him
that-
as a starter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say. That's what they say, for sure. Listen, you can support the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast by supporting our great sponsors like Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Still can slip in a few of those seal coatings if you can find a date to book it. Call Gann Asphalt right now at 816-484-3338. One contractor, all things parking lot. Don't let cars be playing bumper cars in your parking lot. Liability issues, they take you away from your business. Let Gann put you back to focusing on your business. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. And if you've been hurt, whether it's at work, in an accident, Kansas City's number one Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers is Northland Injury Law, serving KC for more than 40 years. If you have a case, let Northland Injury Law know. Text HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-HURT. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold